Hey folks, Kilt-Man here, Kilt-Man at your musical services. How are you all? I hope you're all doing very, very well. Now, here's a little weird story for you. Right, now, yesterday, my dog, Roxy, the husky, the wonder dog, the epitome, the dead ringer for The Thing, from John Carpenter's The Thing, who's lying there right now. She was taken to the dog parlour, a grooming palace for canines. She's not happy about that because huskies, as hairy as they are, they self-groom, they shed their fur when need be, and they preen and look after themselves. Their fur, well, especially this particular specimen, always looks immaculate and resplendent and gorgeous. It's a beautiful animal. And but Mrs. Kilt-Man likes to think that she's giving Roxy a treat. Once a year, we'll go to the dog grooming parlour, but the dog doesn't like it because you go into a bath, doesn't get a fair cut, doesn't need to. As I say, she's self-regulating on that department. But they go into the bath and they get bathed and shampooed, a shampoo and set, and they come out all perfumed and beautiful. Jesus, when she come back home, the perfume that she was enamoured with was just up my nostrils, and just it blew me away. I felt sick, to be honest. But my point is, while she was there, Mrs. Kilt-Man phoned me in a bit of a sort of panic because the dog didn't want to go into the bath, and there was like 3 women, all these dog grooming extraordinaires who were trying to put the dog in there and trying to keep Roxy at her ease, and she was having none of it. So Mrs. Kilt-Man said, well, at home she listens to music with Kilt-Man. So they said, well, why don't we phone him up and ask him what music she's been listening to lately, and we'll play it for her to put her at her ease. So Mrs. Kilt-Man phones me, what music has Roxy been listening to lately? Well, I'll tell you what she's been listening to pretty much all week. Lifeforce, the soundtrack to Lifeforce. The Henry Mancini score and the Michael Kamen score, which I'm going to discuss at length here. I've already discussed Mancini's score for, you know it, you love it, the mid-80s Golden Globus canon group movies, extraordinary fucking, gothic, cosmic, fantasy, epic, nudie space vampires and zombies rife throughout London. Lifeforce. A fabulous score by Mancini, a hitherto mostly unheard score by Michael Kamen. So I've been lucky to have both new scores by Intrada. Intrada, say their name with pride. Intrada, California, have got the license to release both scores in their complete forms, and I've got them both. And but I've known Mancini's score inside out for decades now, and well, it seems that way. And the BSX, their previous release, and now we get the full version of Michael Kamen's score, a lot more than anyone thought ever took place. That's 76 minutes, sweet, 76 minutes worth of music. Yes, exactly. So I've been listening to both of those scores for the last few days now. So I get the phone call. What's Roxy been listening to? And I'm going, Lifeforce. So in the background, you've got one of these girls in the dog grooming parlour going, Alexa, can you play the soundtrack to Lifeforce? Alexa hasn't got a fucking clue what's going on. Well, what else has she been listening to? I said Predator by Alan Silvestri. Roxy. Alexa, can you play the soundtrack to Predator by Alan Silvestri? And I'm going, and also Star Trek the Motion Picture, Jerry Goldsmith, Outland, Jerry Goldsmith, and I was going on and on and on and on, and apparently the dog did get calmed down to Predator. They finally did get Predator and Star Trek. So anyway, so that's out the way there. But basically, I've been listening to Mancini's score and Michael Kamen's score. The previous release, the BSX release from, God, a hell of a long time ago now, the double discer was phenomenal. It seemed to have the entire score to Mancini's soundtrack to Lifeforce, and it is outstanding. And it contained about 20 minutes worth of the Michael Kamen score. Now, folks, before we go into this, you need to know, and most of you already do know, that Lifeforce for Canon Golden Globus, directed by Tobe Hooper. Tobe Hooper! And a screenplay by Dan O'Bannon, for God's sake. Tobe Hooper, Texas Chainsaw Massacre, Poltergeist, you know, loads of things. We'll come on to all this. Dan O'Bannon, you know, with John Carpenter on Dark Star, and obviously Lifeforce, and so many other great movies. Alien. Well, when this film was made and Henry Mancini was scoring it, Henry Mancini, who had cut his teeth in sci-fi and horror from the 50s, and then went on to like the likes of the Pink Panther, Breakfast at Tiffany's, and lovely sort of lush romantic comedies and that sort of thing. Very lovely, easygoing symphonies. He was brought in, and it was a return to form for him, and he came out with a barnstorming score. One of the best, one of the most iconic, driving, propulsive main themes that a genre fantasy sci-fi horror movie with Matilda May in all the nudie bits you've ever heard. And then the rest of his score was sort of sensual, elegant, moody atmospherics. And but the thing is, Golden and Globus, those two Israeli filmmakers extraordinaire, in their sort of schutzpah for like, let's make this even more dynamic and, you know, more exciting and more scary, they cut down what was Tobe Hooper's originally, I think it was way over 2 hours, 2 hours and about 15 minutes, I forget now, but it was a lengthy movie for its time, the mid-80s. It was a lengthy movie, 1985 I think it came out, and so they went in and they cut the film back down, and from his lengthier cut, they took out a huge element of the movie from the start of the film itself, where the film, most of you guys know this, so a scene setting here, it's Halley's Comet is revisiting Earth again, but in the slipstream of it is a huge alien V'ger-like sort of spacecraft, and the British and American combined space shuttle, the Churchill, is out there and goes to investigate this object. Breaks in there and finds 3 humanoids, beautiful humanoids. Only 2 of them are male, but one is Matilda May. They're nudie and they are space vampires. The whole film is based on Colin Wilson's 1977 novel, which is right there, The Space Vampires. And one of the main astronauts, played by Steve Railsback, the stuntman and other stuff, the Charlie Manson story, he's a good actor as well. He becomes smitten with this space vampiress and falls in love with her, and all his crew get killed. He manages to escape back to Earth. A rescue party finds the vampires, brings them back to Earth, and they end up basically London. It's all set in London. When you get back down to terra firma, it's all set in London. And Professor Frank Finlay, the great Frank Finlay, hamming up the movie to the nth degree, is working out that these are the old vampires. We have to kill them the old way, through a shaft of steel, through not the heart, but just below the heart, the nerve cluster below that. It's all fucking full of bullshit, like. But basically, these are vampires that drain when they awaken, these aliens, they drain the life force out of people. Not blood, but the life force. and in so doing they create a zombified husk of the previous being, who then has to go and find someone else to drain life force out of them to stay alive. And it creates panic and bedlam on the streets of London. It is a huge hammer, cosmic, gothic smorgasbord of ridiculous stuff. Every idea is thrown at the screen, and some of it sticks, some of it stinks. But it is hokum of the absolute best pedigree ever. You cannot but enjoy yourself watching Lifeforce. It's a great movie. I've covered it loads, I've written about it loads and loads beforehand, and I've covered it on the channel as well. And Mancini's fabulous score for it I've done separately, so do check those videos out. They are there somewhere. But Michael Kamen's score, I've only given kind of short thrift to because I've never really heard it. Now, and the reasons for that are Golden Globes went in and cut a huge amount of this movie out. Mancini could not come back to rescore and re-edit his compositions to fit the movie because he was already now doing Santa Claus the movie. And so he was busy. So shit, we've got to do something because the score doesn't fit the movie. So we've got to bring someone else in. Michael Kamen had done Brazil. He had done Venom. He had done The Dead Zone. He would go on to great, great things, obviously, of which his score really reminds you of and sort of heralds the way for things like Die Hard, especially Die Hard 2, Die Harder, elements of Highlander, and especially Event Horizon, which has a similar sort of feel. Space, gothic, horror, people getting possessed, dread, atmospherics, menace. Event Horizon really is shaped by the score that he made for Lifeforce. Anyway, so the film was truncated by a lot, and there are now two versions. Well, actually, there's actually three versions. There's a longer version which is not actually available, but if you get the American Blu-ray and 4K, you get the UK Blu-ray and 4K. You've got the theatrical cut, which runs X amount of time, which I've forgotten now, and you've got the international cut, which is the one you should watch because it's just there's more. It's a longer version, and it kind of makes more sense. It's just more fun. It's a better film all round. So you've got that, and what you'll find is in both versions, this is where it gets really, really confusing. Now, as I say, I've just spent the last few days listening to both scores. Mancini's score, which I've known since I was a kid, because I saw Lifeforce when it first came out. I had the first LP of it, then I had a cassette, then I had the BSX version of it, which was a revelation. I loved it. And on that score, on that release, you actually heard Michael Kamen's music. We'll come on to all this. I'm just trying to set the whole scene here. But I've known this movie for a long, long time, and it's Hammer sort of aesthetic. Tobe wanted to evoke the old Hammer sort of, atmospherics and that kind of colour scheme as well. And he did it really well, I'll be honest. The film is a mess, but it's a glorious mess. But the music then got massively changed around. So you lose all that element of the arrival at the spacecraft in the tail of Halley's Comet. And that all gets shortened and truncated. In the theatrical cut, if I remember rightly, this is where it's getting confusing, you see, because I've been playing this music for the last few days now, but I haven't watched the film, either version of it that I've got, for a while. And now I've got so invested in it, I can't differentiate what bit played there, what bit played in that scene, how was that changed, did that bleed into this? Really, it doesn't matter, because this CD from Intrada that I'm going to review right now is Michael Kamen's score. Now, in the film, the theatrical cut, I think you hear more. I could be wrong about this. I think you hear more of Kamen's score. In the international cut, it's more of Mancini's score. But the most important thing you need to know going into this, right, watching the movie, I know, I'm going right round the houses here, aren't I? I'm going in and out of Halley's fucking tail, slipstream. Is that Mancini's score had to be cut down because the film was changed. So they brought in Kamen to patch up the bits where, look, we're going to punch up the opening, the atmospherics of like going into the spacecraft and encountering these sort of crystallized in hypersleep vampires. We're going to boost up all that and make that even more dynamic and scary. So they brought in Kamen to do that, which he did. So it is confusing as hell, folks. It really is. But so he did all these little sort of patchwork elements to connect the dots. When scenes were dropped, he had to make the music sort of flow in, because Lifeforce is a film where the music is almost constant. It's pretty much constant. Dialogue scenes, the music flows in and out of the dialogue. But so you've got Mancini's powerful and then sensual score, and then you've got this punched up sort of scary, atonal, glassy, weird, synthetic, textural, sort of atmospheric score, which Kamen brought in. And here's the rub, folks. Whichever version you watch, you're going to find that what they did, however they did it, you've got Mancini's score and you've got Kamen's score blending in to each other. They are sinuously entwined. So how the hell are you going to decipher the film? Sitting watching the film, you go, oh, that's Mancini. Oh, that's Kamen. That's both. And that's, I don't know what that is. That's a didgeridoo. You're not going to do it. And to be honest, that's an experiment I'm going to do, because I haven't seen the film for a while. And with all of this from Intrada, because Intrada have released obviously Kamen's score, which is out now, and then I've got their full version of Mancini's score. That's out in about a week's time officially, but I have it now, courtesy of Intrada. Cheers, boys. And I will do a review of that. But take it from me, it's exemplary. It's fantastic. But the real boon, the real kudos goes to Kamen's score. Now, straight away, loads of people on certain film score forums are going, right, that's it, I'm out. I am out. What's he saying there? Kamen compared to Mancini? Whoop, I'm out of here. Ta-ra, ta-ra. You idiots, but ta-ra. Kamen is a great composer. But what he did with this movie, he went into doing electronics and synth. But he also did, for that opening sequence, that opening where they arrive at this alien spacecraft, that was orchestral. On the previous release, you had 20 minutes of music. As I said, now on this release, you've got 76 minutes of music. So you've got the full orchestral stuff that he created and composed, and you've got all of these, you're hearing it now, a lot of these synthetic, electronic tones and gestures and inflections and just crazy sort of warped, frightening dissonances and tones and atmospherics, and it's wonderful stuff. And I'll be honest with you, I'm going to say it right now, this is going to shock a lot of people, a lot of purists. I prefer, you're hearing this right, I prefer Kamen's score a lot more than Mancini's. Mancini's is the one that we kind of know and love. Mancini's score is elegant, it's grandiose, but fuck me, it can be boring as hell. In Mancini's score, there are so many long elements of just creeping, slow, almost silent menace. Oh yeah, great. I've loved it. Don't get me wrong. I love his score. But there's more emphasis and there's more structure and direction to what Kamen produced than Mancini. And as a standalone sort of experience, listening to it divorced from the movie itself, I'm enjoying this a hell of a lot more than most of what Mancini composed. I've said this now. My God, I'll be pilloried for this. Hey, no, I've been pilloried for less, and I've always come back for more. It just is more menacing. As Golden Globus wanted, they wanted more punch, more vitality, more scares, more terror, and more sort of, I think, reading between the lines, more sort of verve and a genuine direction to where it's going. And you get that more. Don't, confuse this. Mancini does bring up loads of orchestral bombast. He will bleed in after acres of really slow burn, sort of, moody bits. He will then get into like a bit of a flurry of timpani and brass and strings, and then it will bleed into something else. And that's wonderful. It's wonderful. But Kamen seems to sustain a genuine sense of terror and unease far more than Mancini did. So, you've got about, again, I've got to get the sort of rationale right, the ratio right. Even with the full 76 minutes here that you've got on this glorious Intrada new CD of Kamen's full score, you have got the full orchestral element from the start, which is primarily from the start of the movie, and then there's a piece from later on, but I think it all only comes to about 20-25 minutes of orchestral stuff. The rest is genuinely synthesized and electronic moods and just sort of weirdness, with a few sampled vocals which add a sort of ethereal, dark ethereal choral element to it, which is nice. But what he did, apparently Michael Kamen wasn't a huge fan of what he delivered here. He was just like, well, I've been brought in to do a patchwork here, a repair job. I'm just dotting the I's and crossing the T's and adding that to that, making it flow. But he still created a score which lasts for almost an hour and a half. Best part of like a movie length, a feature length score. So he definitely was invested in this. He brought in James Guthrie, a family friend, an acquaintance. James Guthrie, a sound engineer, a mixer. Now James Guthrie worked with Pink Floyd primarily, Pink Floyd, and also Toto and Boomtown Rats and Jethro Tull. Have I just added that bit off the top of my own head? I'm sure Jethro Tull's in there. Could be wrong. And something else which we're going to come to as well, because there's a little thing at the end of this which I want to bring to your attention. A certain little pop pixie Nick Kershaw. Something in here is definitely to do with Nick Kershaw. We'll come on to that. But so, and Michael Kamen said to James Guthrie, look. In an interview, he did say, like, I just gave it to James Kilty. I just created all this stuff. And it's like, dude, you go and, with your little sound boxes and your mixing desks and all your machines, you do what you need to do and make it scary, punch it up, which is what James Guthrie did. And it works. As I say, I think it's great. So let's listen to a few bits. It's been playing all the while here. We do not need to go into that triumphant main theme for Lifeforce from Mancini. We don't need to do that. I've done it a million times on the channel. I've played it loads. Nothing that Kamen brought up or created can compare with that. But you've also got to remember that main theme, that grandstanding and bombastic main theme that Mancini created, was meant to bookend the movie, which it does not do. You hear it at the end of the movie, when it should have been at the start and at the end. You hear bits of it tracked in throughout the film. Oh, it's great. It's great. And then you hear a lovely version of it at the end of the movie. But, you know, that's not what was intended. Now, Kamen doesn't do anything like that. So, I mean, it'd be good to sort of compare the two, but I'm not going to do that. But his opening title is here now. Hope you can hear that. So this is orchestral. Comets! Space vampires! Cheers. That's big. That's big. That's powerful. You can already hear elements that you know from Die Hard and Lethal Weapon. And throughout his score for Lifeforce, you will hear particularly loads of Die Hard and Die Hard 2 especially. In fact, one track is pretty much lifted from this into Die Hard 2. I love the way he punctuates things with this slow burn menace. But that strong boom, boom, boom underneath. Sorry, forgive me if I look away. I'm just looking at what's coming next. There's 18 tracks on this Intrada CD and a fabulous booklet as well, as you always get. So these are the orchestral cues now. You've got to remember that. And they're big. There's urgency, there's worry. Whichever cut it is, the movie plays more of this than it does of Mancini. But as I say, I've been so soaked in Lifeforce musically for the last few days that I really can't work out which bit goes where. And in the movie now, whichever version you watch, you're going to get a hodgepodge of the two. But there's more of this in one of them, certainly. But the point of this, of course, if you're a Lifeforce fan, you're going to want this. If you're a Michael Kamen fan, you're going to want this, certainly. Because it's definitely, there's a little gap in his discography which you need to fill with this. And it's great. But my sort of ethos behind this review is to listen to the music itself, divorced from the movie. You can take all the history and the whole convoluted story of Lifeforce itself and its production, but the music itself, whether it's Mancini or Kamen, are both exemplary, and they're both worth investing in. You know, this is great. You know, I love this. Full of burgeoning suspense and dread, but also there's like this unerring desire to explore the irresistible pull, which is exactly what the film is about. Matilda May she gets inside Carlson, astronaut Carlson, Steve Railsback. She gets inside his head and she draws them in, and they're all you know, smitten by the aura and the mental abilities of these vampires. By the way, the book by Colin Wilson is shit. I've said this before, it really is shit. Great idea, great concept, but my God, does he bog things down in waffle. Which is rich coming from me, of course. But no, it's although a lot of the elements that you get in the movie, including possessions, Patrick Stewart, and floating blood zombie things, and people getting possessed all around the place and all that, and a cosmic duel and romance on a cosmic level. You know, it's all there, but it's so fucking boring you would not believe. I've tried to read that book several times, and I got the book. I think just before the film came out in the UK, and I saw the film day one in the UK at the Flicks, and I loved it. I knew it was tripe, but it was gaudy, spectacular tripe, and there was so many things in there which I loved, and it was just, oh my God, adored it. So I got that came out just beforehand, and I was starting to read it, and I was like, oh, this is fucking boring. Is the film going to be good? And the film was great, and then I went back to the book, and I tried to finish it, and I couldn't. Then I went back to it again, I couldn't finish it. I've never finished it yet. Don't want to. Shit. You can definitely hear Die Hard and Lethal Weapon, and a lot of the familiar tropes of Michael Kamen. But a lot of the darker elements and the more synthesized, burgeoning darkness would find itself in Event Horizon. See, listen to that. They're huge crescendos, huge flourishes. Edgy strings. It's tense. I love those little trip-tropping little strings and pluckings. Isn't that great? You've got that whooshing element behind it as well. But you know, if you don't like Michael Kamen stuff, I've suddenly discovered a huge amount of hate for Michael Kamen stuff. Since this release got mentioned, so many people are going like, oh, well, if it's Kamen, it's drivel. Fuck you, you know. Each to their own. But you're an idiot, that's what you think. This is just as spectral, ethereal, and mysterious as anything that Mancini created for these scenes, these exact same scenes. I can think of another example as well. When and again, Intrada are you know, heavy praise to Intrada again. One of my favourite movies of all time, as many of you know, is Wolfen. Craig Safan did the score for Michael Bodley's Wolfen. Wolfen was cut down enormously from a fucking 4.5 hour cut to 105 minutes. But it had several cuts in between. Another director was brought in. One of the, again, same as this, it suffered massively, you know, in post-production. And then because Craig Safan's score would not fit the movie, they brought in, at the last minute, with about 2 weeks to score it, was James Horner, the young James Horner. And he brought out one of my favourite scores, not only one of my favourite films of all time, but one of my favourite scores of all time. And the marriage is perfect. Weirdly, Intrada brought out Horner's full score, Craig Safan's rejected full score. And when you hear them, the two, I've reviewed them both. Well, I've written about them a lot. I'm not sure if I've reviewed them both on the channel. I probably have. But they're both extraordinarily great. Safan's score is wonderful, wonderful. And it's great that Intrada do this. They bring out that unused, rejected score, as well as the score that you know in their fullest, you know, variants. And they've done it again with this. BSX brought out Lifeforce, the full Mancini score with about 20 minutes of Michael Kamen. Now, on 2 separate CDs, like they did with Wolf and Intrada, have brought out all of Mancini's score with a cleaner, crisper sound, warmer as well, and a few little bits as well. We'll come on to those, and they're great, and all of Kamen's score with a couple of extras as well. You know, in a period now post-COVID where we're still downtrodden, and we are now, all of us in the Western world appear to be facing, you know, an energy and cost of living crisis. It's great that these things we're still getting. If you're into soundtracks, I'm a bit of a weirdo. I like movie music, but I can't afford to pay my bills. I can't afford to put bread and food on my table. I can't afford to heat my house. But then, my God, Michael Kamen's score for Lifeforce has come out for the first time in its entirety. God damn it, I won't eat for 2 or 3 months because I must have that score. Yeah, do it. Get that score. There's a lot more to it than you think. Like that. So you get these sustained sort of cymbals and like clashes, which are nice little moments. By the way, what you've been hearing there, or what you're about to hear, a lot of this would appear in Die Hard 2, Die Harder, which came and scored a few years later. It's almost note for note, actually. A big lift, but it came here first. It came in here first. This is great turbulent stuff. You've got the squirrely unease, and you've got the strident elements. You know, I've got to get through this. I've got to work this out. Oh. She's a vampire. She's dangerous, but I love her. She's got them amazing boobies. See now, many composers, you play a bit of music, you recognise them instantly. You always recognise Goldsmith, you always recognise John Barry. Always recognise John Barry. John Williams, you recognise all the, the fruity lushness and the entire, every bit of the orchestra is going to be in there, even for the quietest moments. But you always recognise these people. And Horner, you always recognise Horner. But you recognise Kamen as well, straight away. It's that, I don't know if you can hear that sustained cymbal clash, which it can just dissipate into the background, but it's there a hell of a lot. And that's one of those sort of, I don't know, it's almost subliminal elements that he puts in there. It becomes very identifiable with Michael Kamen. But this is great. We're gonna move into the electronic stuff very shortly, and it's great as well. In fact, I'm gonna move on into it now. And all these piercing strings. These are, how high are those strings? They're right up there. You know, they're beyond the stratosphere. Them. You know, they're tickling, the tail of Halley's Comet. Okay, let's get into it. Okay, right, now. Electronics. This is ideas and improv, let's just keep it at that. Improv that Michael Kamen did. And then James Guthrie come in and worked on it and manipulated it and created all of these sort of soundscapes and textures. This is where people go like, oh, that's not even music. Okay, no, I get that, I get that. Weirdly enough, Tobe Hooper, who directed Lifeforce, in his 3-movie deal with Golden Globus canon, he did Invaders from Mars, this, and Texas Chainsaw Massacre Part 2. All 3 of these movies would have difficulties. Texas Chainsaw Massacre Part 2, controversy with its violence. MPAA and in the UK wasn't allowed in the bloody country for many years. Invaders from Mars had 3 scores. The great Christopher Young, one of my favourite composers, and again, there's another composer, instantly identifiable, Christopher Young, except for this particular occasion. Christopher Young was brought in to score Invaders from Mars for Tobe Hooper, and the film was drastically changed and altered. So he did a score, then he did another score, and then David Storrs came in to do another score. And the finished movie has elements of all 3 scores. Christopher Young did an orchestral score. He also did a fully electronic music concrete score. And David Storrs did exactly the same thing, a music concrete score, where it's just tonalities and weird, sort of crazy, imaginative soundscapes and textures, and which is exactly what Michael Kamen's coming up with here. Let's get it something a bit more. It's all menacing and slow burn underscore, but it's really delicately imaginative as well. And so, Invaders from Mars, 3 scores, a lot of electronica goes into it, film gets changed dramatically. Texas Chainsaw Massacre Part 2. A lot of this sounds very similar to Texas Chainsaw Massacre Part 2. I've got the full score for that. I have discussed it actually, and I think it's great. It's a very off-the-wall, off-kilter sort of score, but it's jangling and electronic and weird and sensor. It's a piss take, but it's also meant to, put you at unease. And this does the same sort of thing. Let's get to right, okay. Now you already heard that element. This is London streets in chaos. The zombies running around. That's also very, very Texas Chainsaw Massacre Part 2. So Tobe about 3 films which all had humongous difficulties with editing, cutting down, and censorship, and the scores were massively changed for each. That was a very brief cue, but it's a good one. It's very jangling, isn't it? So we are entering this music concrete sort of element. Now I don't mind this. I understand and totally appreciate that many people don't like this sort of thing. It's not music. No, well, maybe to you it isn't. But it's moody and it has its own cadence and its own atmospherics. And it can embrace a movie perfectly, but also as a listening experience separated from the movie. It can still. I love this stuff. You can trip out to this sort of stuff. It's. I like this sort of thing. It's very moody. And listen to this. I am thinking of space vampires and zombies on the streets. I am, and possession. There's a lot going on there. So a lot of this, as I said before, whichever version you watch, you've got Mancini's score and you've got Kamen's score, and the two will sort of sinuously absorb each other. Like The Thing, they will just assimilate and become their own sort of creature, their own hybrid, which runs throughout the movie. Movie is great, by the way. I've been doing these commentary tracks. I might do a Lifeforce one as well. Could be fun if I can restrain myself from saying what I really feel about Matilda May. And I don't know about you, but Matilda May didn't like doing all the nudie scenes. She felt very uncomfortable, but she went along with it. Does that make it even more exciting? I said it, but you know it, and you're agreeing as well. And that goes for the blokes as well. See, I like these twists, these urgencies. Some of the higher elements remind me of the young Howard Shore working for David Cronenberg. It's got that sort of edgy weirdness which is deliberately meant to unsettle you and make you uncomfortable. It's disquieting, disconcerting. But you can see there's a marked difference between what I played you before and this sequence now. These elements now, which are all synthesized. Listen to this. Bobbly, 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 bob. So imagine if in the dog grooming parlour, and they actually, we were playing Michael Kamen's score for Lifeforce. They put this on. They'd be going like, "This is what your husband listens to." And Mr. Kamen, they're going like, "Yeah, he does. Yeah, he does." The dog's right here, right now. I'll show you. There she is, scratching herself now. Roxy. She's had enough. She's like, "I'm out of here. I've had enough of this shit." Let's play some more. This is building up to the big climax now. And so many of you didn't think that Michael Kamen scored anywhere near as much music for this movie as he did. Loads of these sustained elements would be in Die Hard and Lethal Weapon, the offshoots. You can sense the improv here, can't you? You know, I'm just going to do jangly chords and notes. And then I bring an elbow down. Boom. But there's a it's sort of sped back on itself. There's a gothic structure to this, which also would inhabit the Event Horizon world. I will be covering Event Horizon in depth. I genuinely will. Another film massively re-edited and cut down drastically, which so altered the movie. I love Event Horizon, but it's a massively flawed film, even in the version that we get. I know there's so many people out there that love that movie. I reviewed it from day one when it first came out. I read it for local press. I went to a press screening of it back in the day, and got given the huge, the press package of all stills, glossy stills and synopsis and all interviews and stuff. It was great. It was great. Don't get me wrong. That and Jurassic Park, The Lost World, Jurassic Park 2, whatever the hell you fucking call it. I got all the press package for that as well. I did that as well. But Event Horizon, I remember coming out of that and going, oh my god, that built up, that was so set up so well, and then went fucking folded. And then when you found out what happened to it, you go, oh. And then you're like, well, you know what? I'm bloody glad that we got what we did. And Michael Kamen's score for that is brilliant, very similar to this in many ways. But of course, he was combined with the group Orbital, which has now stopped us, precluded us license-wise from getting the full score for Event Horizon. Ta-da! But the propulsive dance stuff to Event Horizon actually is great. The main title is a wonderful bit of music that I love it. I'm not opposed to a bit of dance, you know. Dance and trance don't bother me. Right. So that I like that. And you found people go like, there's no recurring motif. Well, you've heard that in about 3 or 4 tracks now. More, in fact. That is there. That's a recurring element. Let's get on to the... So, you know, I don't know about you folks, but I'm hearing orchestral elements involved in a lot of these tracks as well. Whether they're just embellishment, whether they are just sampled versions, I don't know. I can't testify. The booklet does give a lot of notes on this. All the accompanying booklets of liner notes for the Intrada releases are always fantastic. I mean, they give you a good overview of the movie and its production, and of course then they go into the composer and how the score evolved as it went on. And then you get the sort of, you know, where this was all sourced from, you know, how they got these tapes, how they managed to, you know, restore this particular score, how they got the rights to it. And the rights to this, to the Kamen estate, when they finally found that there actually was, so much more music that Kamen had done, it was like an epiphany moment, almost a holy grail. I don't think anyone even knew that he'd done as much music as he actually genuinely did for this film, for this score. And now we've got it all. When will it stop? So, that was a good jump, wasn't it? To nothing. This is pretty much the finale now. Of course, Mancini's finale is huge and overblown and very, very hugely bombastic, operatic, and hugely symphonic, and it's great. But his score, Kamen's score, wasn't meant to be like that. His score was meant to be, you know, bleeding in and connecting all these scenes together. There's no way on earth that all that he wrote at these 76 minutes was ever going to be in that film, even for, you know, Golden Globus canon films. That was not going to happen. But he'd done more than he was required to do. And obviously James Guthrie had, you know, obviously done a whole lot more as well. No. I'm going to play you the thing, because you've got 2 tracks at the end of this. Alien Spacecraft Atmosphere's Real 1 and alien spacecraft atmospheres. Real. 2. You're right. Clever. And they encompass about 11 minutes together. So you've got like, these are just textural ideas. But I'm going to get on to something which I found straight away. And I went, oh my God. I mentioned Nick Kershaw before, didn't I? Who's still going strong. Seen him only recently. Dancing Girls. I Won't Let a Sun Go Down on Me. Wouldn't It Be Good? And Don Quixote. Don Quixote, folks. It's in here. It's in here. And I'll prove it to you. So this first, track 17, Alien Atmospheres, Alien Spacecraft Atmospheres, Reel 1. Hearing all this, and there's a few ideas, like, oh, there's shifting, and it's turbulence, it's like surging, isn't it? But we're going to go on to... Wait to hear this. This is actually, in brackets, it's called chimes. You'll hear why. There. I'm going to want you to pay attention in a few seconds' time, and then again. Trust me on this. Right, start listening now. Go and turn it up. Chimey chimes again. Now I'm going to take you a bit further on to, I think, oh yeah, hang on. It's all that same thing again. And right, you've heard that now, yeah? The same year the Lifeforce came out, Nick Kershaw released Don Quixote. Nick Kershaw, if you watch the video, that hair he's sporting there is the exact same hairdo that I had. Mainly because I love Nick Kershaw and I was trying to be Nick Kershaw back in the 80s. So I had the exact same fucking hairdo and I loved it. Now, okay, this is all great, you know, glissandi and chimes and weirdness. They're all great, aren't they? But you hear those elements there. Right, I'm going to go on to something now. If you watch... Head down a bit. If you watch the video for Don Quixote, the full-length video for Don Quixote, watch it on YouTube. It starts off with that. There was a guy during the 80s who appeared in loads of pop videos and loads of adverts who looked like Einstein, with his curly weird hair and his big moustache, and he plays a painter. And he's painting a canvas with this music playing, this tonalities and chimes playing. And it'll bleed into a doorway on a beach where Nick Kershaw pops out with like an old archaic timepiece, a pocket watch, which he will then skip across the water and then he'll go back in time to meet Don Quixote, the man who shouts at windmills. And but this stuff is playing. This is exactly what's playing. And this film came out the same year. Now, oh, Kilt-Man, it's just chimes. Okay. Now, in the video, which I'm going to play the music for right now, you've got the sound of water tinkling as well. But it's exact, but the chimes and the sort of the momentum of it, it's exactly the same. So you just heard it. Now let's go on to it now. This is the Nick Kershaw Don Quixote. Ignore this, but that sounds very similar to the rest of the Lifeforce Michael Kamen synthesized score. Get through this. This guy's painting, and it comes to life, or whatever. Water, but now listen. Those chimes are identical. Now, how'd that happen? Now, James Guthrie was the sound mixer for Michael Kamen on this movie, and he worked with Pink Floyd and Toto and Boom Sound Rats and many others during the 80s. It's going to go into Don Quixote now. So we will leave it. Because that will ruin the whole thing. Although I love Don Quixote. But let's go back onto that. Now, he was working with pop groups and rock groups at the time. What came first? Both of these came out the same year. Don Quixote came out in 85. This came out in 85. You had Mancini's score. Then you brought in Michael Kamen, and you brought in James Guthrie. And the two are working together. And by Kamen's own admission, I did my stuff, I improv'd, and I gave it to James Guthrie and let him work his magic with his little black boxes and his little keyboards and all his machines. So how did this element? This is Lifeforce now. It's exactly the same. All it's missing is the tinkling water. No, I don't mind. I just like these connections. I love stuff like this. I'm not trying to say, oh, someone ripped somebody off. I don't know. I don't know. There could be a massively legit reason for this. Yes, James Guthrie worked on Nick Kershaw's Don Quixote video. Although I did look into, albeit in a sort of cursory sort of look, and I couldn't see James Guthrie name mentioned anywhere in connection with Nick Kershaw. Maybe I should have looked at Michael Kamen to do with Nick Kershaw. Because Michael Kamen was involved, obviously, with other people who were involved with rock bands and pop bands and stuff. So, but either way, folks, that sound there, those chimes and that wah, wah, and that effect is exactly the same that's in the intro to the full version of Don Quixote on the video. There you go. Bit of detective work there. I love that as well. These gongs and chimes, and it's great, isn't it? So you see, he was experimenting there. These are, as I say, the alien spacecraft atmospheres. This is reel 2, track 18, and I mean, you know, this would not have been used in the movie itself, but elements of it could have been used to bleed in, and they probably are. If you study the actual score itself, they probably are in there a little bit. But it's just adding, you know, and the modulation obviously changes as well, like, but that's all deliberate. It's all designed that way. It's the same piece going over and over again, isn't it? Slightly altered, perhaps. But that is what you'd hear in Don Quixote, the video. There you go. Nick Kershaw's been to Halley's Comet and back. And he found Don Quixote there, in the nude, sucking the life force out of windmills. Well, it wasn't that shocking. I love that though, isn't that lovely? It's not music though, Kilt-Man, it's not music. It sounds great. I like it. I like it a lot. I am massively, massively impressed with this score and this release from Intrada. And I urge you all, if you're fans of Kamen, fans of Lifeforce, fans of music and experimentalism, get it. It's great, and the booklet's great. It describes loads more than I can remember, you know. But you've heard a fair gamut of it now, and I think it's wonderful. The film itself is a ridiculous mess of ideas, but the vast majority of them are great. They don't necessarily gel together, but it makes for a wonderful, solid, entertaining mass of idiocy. Gaudy, Technicolor, John Dykstra, Richard Edlund, fantastic ILM, pyrotechnics everywhere. It's wonderful. You've got prosthetics, you've got animatronics, you've got all sorts going on. And it's great. It's off its face. SAS are in there. Don't get me started on that. Peter Fair as Commander Kane. Oh dear God Almighty. Commander Kane of the SAS. That last statement is not for publication. This is a D-notice situation. What the I know this stuff. A D-notice situation? It's ludicrous, but it's great. And he's the most ridiculous of SAS operatives ever. But it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. The film is just great, good fun. The scores are wonderful. Mancini's score, Mancini's main theme, to die for. But the little hidden treasure is this Michael Kamen score, most of which none of us knew. All right. I've told him now. I've told him. Calm down. Give it a rest, will you? Folks, cheers. Michael Kamen, cheers. It's wonderful to finally hear this now. So, I have been Always Shall Be Kilt-Man. I hope you enjoyed this. Please like, share, comment below, and subscribe, and get this. You know, get this album. It is wonderful stuff. You've got to stand by and applaud all these boutique labels that can find and source these original masters and, you know, these tapes, restore them and put them out in their fullest possible glory. These are pieces of history, and these, even divorced from the visuals, they tell their own stories. This, despite everyone saying, oh, that's not music, this tells its own story. I've been listening to this for 2 days now, and I'm loving it all the more. It's got its own hypnotic qualities to it, which is just a delight to experience. So, anyway, and it's also nice to see like what would develop into the scores that, you know, we associate with Michael Kamen. They all kind of began here. This was the little nexus, the little gene pool. Obviously, you know, Dead Zone and Venom and what's the other one? Brazil. Sort of congealed into this little pool of Lifeforce. And Lifeforce, it sucked the Lifeforce out of all these other elements, and obviously Mancini as well, and then became a great illustrious composer's career from that point onwards. There you go. I can't see fairer than that, can I really? So folks, I have been Always Shall Be Kilt-Man. Please keep it Kilty, keep it Celtic, and I am going to see you all whoosh, in a comet tail near you. nudies. Say no more. We're all sold, aren't we?